Sorry.
No worries. Any instructions on here? So it's okay.
Get them. Get online.
Should we try again?
You should be able
Oh,
to
I'm
just
good.
join the Zoom.
Okay. I'll go get a trash. That was,
Yeah, this is, and I'm gonna just don't throw this.
well, I'm going to the kitchen.
This is good.
Like, a little bit.
Yeah, I got I know I'm pretty good too, so you said.
Oh, yeah, so you need to go to your Wi-Fi
Yeah.
and then, it'll show you the options and it'll say UMA guest. And then you connect to that. And then it asks you to accept their terms.
The main EDU gets.
Yep, that's probably the one. And then you just accept their terms and they'll be on their Wi-Fi.
Like Nels can't use a coffee machine here, I can't figure out the Wi-Fi.
But you're gonna have to, if you're getting on Zoom and you're in the room, you have to turn the audio off on your computer. Where it's gonna rotate.
Yep, I will turn this in a moment.
Okay.
Hey, Rachel.
Yes,
Hey, just to let everyone know, I'm kind of unprepared because I cannot get to the, I don't have any copies of all the documents and stuff.
okay,
The printer, I couldn't get the printer going, so,
okay,
so I'm just gonna kind of go by what's being talked about at this point.
okay, that should be adequate.
Unless you can
All
share-
right.
Rachel might be able to share her screen potentially.
Yeah, if you want, I won't do it yet, cause, well, I guess I can. I think we just wanna see who joined the meeting first.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you can put the documents in front of your screen, if and when we get going, that'll work.
I also printed off copies of the materials for folks in person. Does anyone need a hard copy?
I hope
Okay,
But if you have one.
I mean,
Unless you run short, I'm gonna try to.
would anyone else like a copy? I mean, I do wanna save one for Newell in case he needs one. I think everyone else is zooming in, so. Yeah, so if any guests would like to look at the materials packet.
Different agenda, I guess.
Sure, and I also have just the agenda printed
Oh,
as
do you?
well.
That's all I need. Just to kind of follow along. All right.
Would you like an agenda? Okay.
Rachel, if you have an extra, I have.
That'd be great. Welcome, nice to see you.
Great to see you too.
There is, and I think you just accept the terms and it should
Would either of
actually
you like
go.
to-
Sure, that's what I thought, but I truly can't read it, so don't ask me.
You save this spot for anyone and other people can join us at the table?
Yeah.
If you'd like to join us at the table, I think we have plenty of seats, so.
Not in camera view right now, so that's a good thing.
It's awkward having me back to you.
Yeah, it's always felt weird having people on the outside.
That's why we just did that circle.
Yeah, well,
That's as
yeah,
far as I got.
welcome to the table, really.
And it gave me everything. Yeah. Well, if anyone wants. Rachel, when you get a minute, the two old guys over here can't get in.
Hey, sure, we'll
Okay,
let them know we're not on it.
okay. We'll go around and introduce ourselves.
You got my attention when you said old guys.
I don't wanna.
Right?
That's all I was doing.
You
So-
you're into the wire.
I would go on the agenda, so no,
No, you are, so I'm not gonna sit right next to you. You'll be on the,
Yep. that's what I-
you'll be on the big screen.
If it's the one I sent you last night.
Oh, so
There he is.
you're on it? Let's try.
If everybody's in agreement, we can down with the. Each have the same version, you know, from
That would be great.
it.
So you said no real changes?
Yeah. Sorry that our legal was so late.
The township board should be working
I'm just
now,
glad
you wanna
we-
try?
Yeah, me too. I was surprised when I saw it come through last night. About 4 months.
That's 2 miles.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes,
Thanks.
and then can I just
Planning this summer.
make sure,
I mean, I live.
What's that?
Hopefully this summer to move the box, many boxes.
Great. Yeah.
We don't have that many more boxes.
because if you join the Zoom.
And we're gonna actually, we're looking to hire somebody, like a temp to
Yeah.
go through.
Then maybe you're not
there.
there. Okay. But anyway, your sound is also great.
That's one.
Okay.
Right, the rest of the.
The rest of them are in a storage locker in Old Town. You know?
Send somebody over. I brought our library band down today and I just said, what do I do? Staff over?
Yeah, when time comes.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we weed through them before we send them over.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, there you go.
Around. And sometimes we, do what they call an overlay relay. So somebody starts from one, goes to mile two, and at the same time, someone starts from two and goes to three. Because, we have walkers too.
Oh,
We did it right.
yeah,
We can do that too.
it's not, it's yes, gotta write the situations.
I think-
Did you put some water in there?
Yes.
Good morning. I'm online. Yeah, I'm in Glenburn. We just got
Yeah, oh, see, they're catching
got home
some-
from the river.
Live stream is running, but we,
Okay.
nothing, you got.
For the online.
Just on the side.
I'll have Rachel send it to you. I'll let her know. Okay.
What do I need to send?
Hey, Rachel. Zeke just called me. He's looking for the Zoom link.
Okay,
You can send it to him.
okay.
All right, Willie one.
Yeah. So short.
Zeke,
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Join us at the theater. There's plenty of seats.
Yeah. For anyone who arrived after I announced it, this meeting is being live streamed. Not my copy. Crisis averted. Okay, Darren just chat that he has to step out for a few minutes at 10:20. Yeah, it sucks, Ernie. I did that she's coming so hard, but I mean, I thought she was gonna be here, beginning of the year, just had to be between the houses. She's zooming.
I could text her. Oh, she's gonna Zoom.
Yeah.
Joe's not participating.
Or was he able to join? Maybe.
Mason's procedure was at 9:45.
Unlikes.
So we're missing Joe and Rena. Go ahead. Welcome to the MITSC meeting here in Augusta Randall Center. And please join us for a minute for opening honor. Olemme näkisimme Mieleinen Spenkiska på Moxlogan. Aga Mieleinen eduji Wallin walk. Ja vi går till good. Eller vi tar sig skettkami. Vi tog hem in där. Näkisimme West. Så det var en gazelmanen. Jag got to go to you came on it. Det gick vid hemma nu kan Almi. Ni kan yellow dited. Jag kan inte which go av oss dited. We should also start with introductions as well. And let's go. Well, I could start and then we'll go around. How's that? Sounds good. No, Louis Lewis, that's gonna go ahead and go. List, New Jay Ozzy by, but I'm gonna go to book.
I'm Kimberly Pat Warden. I'm an assistant attorney general.
Greg Curtis, I head up special collections at the University, Maine.
I'm Christian Coates. I'm the interim state archivist.
I'm Rachel Bell. I'm the projects coordinator with MITSC.
Good morning, I'm Jill Tompkins, Executive Director for MITSC and also a Pascot Nation citizen.
William Merrick Cultivator, Passamaquoddy tribal member, former member of MITSC when then Attorney General during the land claim settlement, Richard Cohen sat on MITSC also.
Welcome.
Good morning, my name is Ralph Dana. I am the aquatic restoration coordinator for the Passamaquoddy tribe at Svaik. And I appreciate being invited to come down and spend a little bit of time with you this morning.
Hi, I'm Laura Rose Day. I'm with the Scudic River Restoration Trust, a relatively new nonprofit working to help restore the Scudic.
Brian Elfman is senior, work for Maine Wabanaki Reach program. I'm not here to represent Reach. I'm here as a tribal member from Svaik.
I'm Bob Checkaway. I'm one of the state-appointed members of the commission, and I come from Freeport.
Nelson Kramer, state appointed.
infield.
Yeah.
Right.
And online? Dr. Rico?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Darren Ranko, and I'm one of the two representatives from Penobscot Nation to MITSC.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zeke Ralph McDonald. I am the commissioner for Holton Bannermouse Indians, and I'll pass it over to Bert.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bert Polchis. I am the other Penobscot commissioner to MITSC. Good, and looking forward to our discussions here.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing, John. Holton Band of Mouse Indians Commissioner and travel member.
Teresa, are you there?
You can.
Sorry, hello, I am here. I'm Teresa, I'm a Columbia student, and I'm just tuning in.
Hey, I don't think we have a quorum, is that correct? We're missing two commissioners, and we would need both of them to maintain our quorum. But reviewing the agenda, does anybody have any questions or concerns or changes? Number 3 over to yeah,
Number 2,
2.
which I'm happy to introduce. So
Okay.
we have our
Oh, right,
minutes
sorry.
from the January meeting that we need approved, but we don't have a quorum, so.
At your leisure, maybe review them and
Yeah.
let us know if there needs to be any correction.
And we'll table them.
Bring it up next time.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rachel and I are splitting up the agenda this time, so
Okay.
you don't have to hear my voice for 4 hours. Oh, I guess that's what I need. So I'm really happy that Christian, who said I could call him Christian, and Greg are here to talk to us about the MOU that we are doing with the University of Maine and the state to have MITSC's archives formally transferred over to the state's custody. We still have access to it for the most part, but I don't know, would you want to explain the different components of, or do you have copies of the agreement?
Yeah, happy to just pass them around. I think the basic idea is just that the MITSC Commission records can be under the management of the state archives, but still in control, being housed in Orono at the University Library. And all the records would just be subject to all the same care and rules and regulations that all the state records are. And this way we can digitize them, we can make them available on the open access platform so everybody in the world can see them if they want to. And we'll have them in safekeeping.
It sort of formalizes what we've been doing.
Correct.
For a number of years, predecessor would be. So yeah, it's sort of, as they formalize it, we're happy we have them.
And we're glad to get them out of the darkness of the
storage unit.
4 years.
Yeah, obviously everything will physically be, safer if it's in the library's care.
We did get a little grant that will give us the possibility of hiring a temporary person to basically follow whatever rubric is developed for the guidelines of what needs to be retained versus things that we don't necessarily need to keep forever, like canceled checks and kind of make sure there's no personnel records in there. So my hope is to get that completed this summer. And then we had a storage locker in Old Town. Actually, we moved most of them from the records that were left at Cobscook up to Old Town. So they should be ready to to move on.
And the archive staff is happy to help, you know, with the processing of those documents and the digitization, whatever we can do to help.
It's huge, the digitization is huge, because I was looking for yet more money to do that independently, and so it's very much a relief to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah, and we can also help, like I said, with processing, figuring out what is confidential, what should be kept, what shouldn't be kept, and sort of winnowing it down.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's our pleasure. That's what we're here for.
It looks like Zeke may have a question.
Willie one. Well, I just want to say thank you first off. I think it's a great effort to get that information available to anyone who might want to research and learn more about it. That being said, I am curious what Dr. Ranko thinks as someone in the university system, and I also have a question that I think we've asked in the past, but just for clarity. Who owns these documents? So right now it's owned by the University of Maine and other people have access to it. Is that how the system works?
Go ahead.
No, you
I was gonna say, technically, they're state records, right? We have determined. So, they would fall under the state archives.
Right.
We just had them donated, my predecessor had them donated, about probably 10 years ago, I think it was, 10, 12 years ago. And they languished, so. At that point, so. But they are the commissions.
Right. Typically with any state agency, the documents that any state agency creates are on a retention schedule. So they belong to the agency for a number of years. And then when that retention schedule is over, they are either destroyed, being, you know, considered not useful to anybody anymore, or they become archival. And then it's the state's responsibility to take care of those records. And you know, more specifically, it's the archive's job to take care of those records. So we have boxes and boxes of records from every commission and agency in the state government going back to, you know, the 1800s.
Yeah, I went to the University of Maine for my undergrad, and I remember looking up a Solomon Act. I was curious of them back then, and going to the special collections and asking for information, and them hauling out boxes that were immediately overwhelming. But a lot of good stuff in there that's being held. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
I'd like to welcome Rena Newell, who has joined us, and I don't know if Dr. Rank, if you had a follow-up with Zeke?
Yeah, I mean, we have various agreements, I think, MOUs and that sort of thing, Zeke, you know, in terms of the special collections and the holdings there, and also just kind of constantly looking for and creating more tribal access to special collections. So I feel like this is a real advantage in terms of the potential for more, as you said, you were a student, for more tribal and tribal community access to these records, because I think they really impact us. So we have an ongoing set of programs and arrangements to do this kind of work. So yeah.
Actually, that's what prompted this whole process, was students of Professor Michael Pauling asking to look at the records. And then I think there was something that said they were confidential or needed MITSC permission to look at them. And so that's kind of opened the door to this. And I want to thank Kim Patworton for her assistance, because we did have an informal meeting with the Attorney General's office. There's this whole question of MITSC is an independent agency, but for some purposes it's treated as a state agency. And then for other purposes, it's not. So we've been kind of working through it issue by issue. For archives, yes, we're under the freedom of access law, but for purposes of benefits, which we'll talk about later, we're not covered as state employees. So I think that's something MITSC is, you know, going down a path where we're just looking at issue by issue, how it should be treated.
So did any other comments from the screen for now? Bert, Sam? Teresa? Rena,
Nothing for me.
and how about in the room here at the table or in the back? William, Brian, Ralph? No, no questions? Good. Robert?
Oh, thank you.
And so we have an MOU as well, we could have worked on it.
I guess this is one of those things we're still figuring out.
Lots of lawyers in there.
That's right. It's can we notice, can we notice a meeting just for the purposes of ratifying what we did today?
Okay,
To just let the public know, something like that. So I mean, if you get a sense of the people in the room, if there's any great objections, but then we just set a meeting to do the minutes and then maybe do this agreement. Because it's gonna be a while before the next meeting.
it is not in June or July.
Well, I would like to talk about that.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So is there, from the MITSC table, is there any objections to moving forward with this process? Any other questions? Here or there or anywhere around the world?
I think all we're short is getting, Joey Barnes a chance
Yes.
to look at the document and
Check it.
and make an objection if he's got one, in which case we have to come back.
Actually, we're gonna talk about the remote access policy. One of the things that we need to institute is a way for folks who are online to be able to communicate with us. So I just got a message from Maria Gerard, Knobscott tribal member. And so I think her question is this an opportunity for the tribes to get a copy of the materials for themselves, at least digitally? She's worried that some records could go missing. If there's more to it, then she can text.
As we go through the digitization process, it will all get uploaded into our new platform called Open Access, and many people may be familiar with the old website called Digital Main, which was kind of impossible to navigate and really hard to find things on. We have a new platform that's being launched kind of as we speak. We're in the process of uploading things to it. And when that's up and running, hopefully this summer, it's being designed with the typical user in mind, rather than the research archivist in mind. So it'll be a lot easier to navigate and easier to find stuff. And as we process the collection, everything will be on there.
So you're talking like index and searchable and all of that?
Yeah, much better.
And until that time, I mean, we're happy to make copies of anything, electronic copies, and ship them, so.
I invite you to look at the MITSC website because the library has been greatly enhanced. So almost any document that has to do with the settlement is on there, or at least there's a link to it if it's stored someplace else. So in the interim, it's, or just, it could be a primary source as well for documents.
And I should remind everybody, I think I brought a copy last time, but it has, what we have has been organized, and that's available through our interface. You go to our special collections page, you can search for what's in the various folders, so.
That's nice. There's so many departments that aren't.
Yeah. We use archive space, so.
Yeah.
So to answer Maria's question, yeah, they can definitely, be able to download these documents. There's nothing confidential that's going to be on them.
Does that satisfy your question?
I have a question as well. Are there any administrative barriers accessing open access? Do you need a student ID?
No, open access will be open access to anybody with an internet connection.
Cool. Holy one.
Follow up, all set?
Yeah, that's- Maria, if that doesn't answer your question, please text back. In the future, we'll have a Zoom link. People can get in touch and ask for a Zoom link, kind of like they do the public hearings at the legislature. Right?
There is a way to have a public Zoom meeting. I know we do that for a couple of different days.
Right.
But I don't do it, so I don't know.
Seems like there's somebody who lets people in and keeps them in line. So we would need to set that up. The little dots are going, so she may be writing.
Maybe we can take a minute to acknowledge that Rena Newell has joined us.
I did.
Oh, you did, sorry. Okay. Multitasking. Let's take this.
Little dot went away, so.
Those little dots.
Little bubble. Okay, well, if she comes back.
Well, we can stay on here for a minute and let her finish her question or comment, whatever it is. So where physically will they be stored, like in folder?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Never been up there.
No?
No.
Nice place. Yeah.
I just asked her if she needed anything else. Oh. She said, thank you, I just don't want them disappeared. The old treaties went missing from the colonist side, and the Penobscots would have their copies and be able to produce them.
Okay. And what you're saying is everything's gonna be intact, accessible.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right, and we'll follow up with the MOU as well. And I don't know if there's other questions, comments?
Just maybe I should clarify that you're gonna sign it.
I see my name's on it, yes.
We'll go to the top of the food chain.
No.
Okay.
I did not.
Sorry.
But it's our standard language. Kate McBrien looked at it. Tammy looked at it.
Okay.
Wasn't under instruction to run it by John.
And you read it.
Yes, yeah, yeah, so it's
With that?
We can talk later.
Okay.
Yeah.
You all set there?
I think so, yeah, I guess do we need to maybe wait to hear if you have to have. I think we're gonna have to wait and see if there's gonna be an attorney general review. That's necessary.
And hear from Joe as well. Joe Barnes.
Oh, yeah, well, no, I think you need to call a meeting.
Yeah.
That could be a remote meeting.
Could be.
For the things that, that don't need to be voted on.
With form.
Yes, with a quorum,
All right.
which actually does raise an issue about the quorum. And I was just wondering if you had any feedback from Jerry Reed,
I don't.
governor's office.
You'd have to go down and stand outside his office.
Yeah, we're short 4 state commissioners, so that's the problem we have with achieving a quorum.
You're short for appointments?
Yes.
From the state side.
Have we met quorum on this meeting yet?
No, and we won't.
Because you can't. Because you can't.
We have one missing,
Oh, okay.
and we need all 6
You
plus
need
2
everybody then.
and me to make a quorum, so we don't have it.
Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready. So, next item is, the causeway between Zibite and Eastport and Ralph Dana from the Zibite Environmental here.
Bear with me. I want to see how this works. Peter, the IT guy was here this morning and gave me a quick rundown of how this is gonna go.
Come on.
As a tech person? Jeez. I think I leave a lot to the second that arena.
When this comes up, I don't know what it's going to do for the online viewers. Or I'm not really clear on that.
Share the screen.
The tech person is. But. Yeah, we're gonna have to ask.
Well, if you could do share on that.
Yeah, I don't know if they can see.
Yeah.
Can somebody
Can-
verify on the screen?
Can folks who are on Zoom tell us if you see?
What do you see?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much.
Okay. Okay.
This is Rena. I can only see the room
Okay,
where you're all sitting.
so I think, Ralph, we might need to use my computer.
It's like a normal Zoom.
And then I'll share my screen.
What are,
Okay.
what are you hoping that we can see? Because I can see everyone.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
have a PowerPoint up
Ralph's
on the
trying to
screen.
share a PowerPoint.
So I'll just
Can you
give
add
you the thumb drive and throw it in
Yeah,
yours?
I guess
That'd
so,
be-
yeah.
Okay.
Will it let you add Ralph?
I don't think. Does Ralph have a?
This we're just running it like a regular Zoom meeting.
No.
So.
Okay, sure.
While she's getting that up, I sent out a set of supplemental materials, which included a resolution by Pleasant Point Tribal Governor.
Okay. No,
Did-
not.
Oh, would that have been the resolution that the council just took up recently? Is that what you're referring to as far as the causeway?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
March 12th is the date on.
Archives is found.
Yes.
Yeah. I just didn't say that. I still have
Okay.
this.
Get it now.
Yeah. There we go. Okay.
We're working on
And
things
then
like
hopefully I
that.
can figure out what you want. The words,
From
the
there,
errors.
just use the arrows.
Okay, great.
So,
Yeah, you just tell me when you want.
Oh.
yeah.
When you're sharing that.
Archives.
So they should be able to see it online.
Yeah, so folks, can you see the PowerPoint now shared on the screen?
Totally understood. Yeah.
Okay, where it says thumbs up.
Should be.
So I think we're good.
So Jill, did you have that presentation?
Yeah, I don't know. So to me,
It's in the supplemental. Oh, you know, it's not limited.
It's in the one I can.
yeah, limiting.
It's in,
Marie
yeah.
Gerard. She-
Towards the-
she's
right
a
there.
professional
Yeah,
researcher.
that's part of it.
Master's.
I will.
I don't know
You're.
You don't have
to. Standardized.
Yeah.
Must have access to the box.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
That would be what I-
Right, he like me so much. I guess just.
Good. Awesome.
Good.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just want to thank the commission for inviting me to come down. And also, just to let you know, we had a professional IT person in here earlier, but Rachel fixed it. So, give her lots of credit. I think it was actually me. He did show me how earlier, but something wasn't, we couldn't quite get the screen share. So I just want to acknowledge everybody online too, and I'm glad you can see this. So I'm gonna just talk to you a little bit today about the Sabayak Esport Causeway. If we go to the next one, please, Rachel. Just the up or down arrow should do it.
Right. Works.
Probably the down arrow.
That's not. Oh.
So,
Is that the next
yep,
one?
that's
Okay.
good. So just to give you a little orientation of what we're talking about, the IT guy didn't have a laser pointer, so I might jump up there once in a while and point things out. Clearly the Scudic River, Sabayak and Township, Minocqua, lie in the heart of a traditional territory, which is depicted generally by the broader tan colors. And then the St. Croix, Scudic River watershed is the blue in the middle. That black line going up through is what's now known as the international boundary. And clearly that's right in the middle of our territory. And when we go in, keep in mind these two pieces here. This is Campobello Island, and that's Deer Island, and Sabayak is right here. So when we go in, I'll give you a couple photos that'll bring it in closer, but use those as a frame of reference for kind of a orientation. So next slide, please. So here's Township, and down here is Sabayak. I'm sorry, online, you probably can't see me pointing to different things. Just the room's gonna be able to see me pointing. But if you look, it's in red up there in Township in the upper left. And then Sabayak down here, kind of lower right-ish. And again, this is Deer Island here and Campobello Island here. So we're zooming in. I'm gonna bring you closer and closer in and bring you right down to the causeway. So keep in mind, here's Sabayak right at the end of it, and this is Esport down here in the lower right. So next slide, please. So there's Sabayak now where it appears where I had it up before. And what we're gonna be talking about today is right here. This is Esport down in the lower right. This piece here is Cullows Island and obviously Sabayak. We're gonna be talking primarily about this causeway and a little bit about that second causeway. Which, as you know, Esport is sometimes referred to as Moose Island. That was clearly an island historically, as well as what's now known as Cullows Island. And then it was right in the vicinity of Sabayak, disconnected prior to the dams being built. So next slide, please, Rachel. That's a little tighter shot. It just shows the existing slips there at Sabayak in the old fish plant building adjacent to it, and clearly showing the causeway. This here on some of our old maps, right in this area through here, was some of the old charts show navigable waters. They have some depth soundings there. So I don't know how large a craft could have ever possibly gotten through there, but they certainly were large enough to get some bathymetry readings. So at some point, that section clearly was a navigable water. And then just the community of Sabayak in the upper left, some of the homes, and that community does continue off screen. This whole cove here on this side is part of Copscook Bay, more specifically Half Moon Cove. And obviously this side over here is past the 40. That's one of the issues when they built these dams and this causeway. It separated that aquatic connectivity between the two bays, between Passamaquoddy and Copscook Bay. So that's problematic for a whole bunch of reasons, but clearly one of them would be tidal flushing, aquatic connectivity, the impact it had on different resources in the area that are crucial for Passamaquoddy. You want to get this one too?
If you want to.
Next slide, please, Rachel. So I don't have to go into too much detail. I mean, it's self-explanatory, as Indigenous people throughout the region, some of our, we were at a meeting last night in Whiting at the Copscook Institute, talking about a Bay of Fundy aquatic connectivity project. And one of the real nice questions I didn't get, that I heard from a lady in the audience, she asked about the longevity of that project and how do we ensure that keeps going and how do we make sure that it doesn't just kind of fall by the wayside. It wasn't directed to me, but I was just thinking about her question. And the answer is this right here. As Passamaquoddy, we've been here, right? And we're going to continue to be here. And I believe we're the ones who are responsible for maintaining that continuity of these kinds of efforts. That's the answer. Throughout different funding cycles, throughout different administrations, throughout different people who are involved. At the end of the day, we're the ones who are going to advance these kinds of issues. That's our history. So next slide, please. Clearly, for Passamaquoddy, the importance of fish and fisheries and the marine environment, you know, it's in our namesake. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. It's part of what makes us. And what relates to that is the community of Sabayak, that reservation being right there on the coast, being the one of the other Passamaquoddy communities. So next slide, please. So quite a few years ago, 1793, there were negotiations about what's going to be reservation, what does that look like? And Chief Neptune, in a very eloquent way, thanked the committee and said those lands are not acceptable. They were trying to give the tribe these different parcels of land throughout the region. What he went down to and came up with was this right here, 100 acres at Pleasant Point, and a tract of land a few miles above Scudic, where we've pitched. I don't know for sure, but I think he was referencing township. Above Scudic Falls, where they had pitched, where they had a village, where they were camping. So he was referencing in those negotiations the importance of Sabayak and township. So obviously it's important for a whole bunch of reasons, the community of Sabayak, marine resources, finfish, shellfish, navigable waters, open waters, access to inland water routes. And that was our community. That would have been a very strategic place that we'd use for those thousands of years. And he acknowledged that and recognized that in those negotiations, this is important. This is non-negotiable. These are the areas that we need to have for our survival. Next slide, please. So little history, more recent times, 1800s, railroad goes in. 1930s, the Tidal Power Project, which resulted in some of these dams starting to be built. And in the 50s, State Route 190 was put in. All of this is state and federal government intruding and seizing upon what was already eked out. It was scratched out, right? He fought for that. We recognize that these areas are so important and so vital to Passamaquoddy, and they were finally reserved for us, but it didn't stop. These kinds of activities continue to happen. So next slide, please. Here's one picture, 1910. This is the train trestle. If you're familiar with Sabayak, for a frame of reference, I think this photo, somebody was standing over by what they call Big Head now, over where the old tribal office building used to be. I think there's a church steeple right there. And there's the bridge, the trestle, actually, at that time. It wasn't filled in, it was actually a suspended trestle going across. So the trains were built in the 1800s, excuse me, and that's where they would have gone through. I remember my grandfather talking about him working in Eastport. I'm sure if he couldn't catch the train, he'd walk that trestle hundreds of times. I remember my father talking about that a bit, the trestle when he was a kid, down there at the old school, which was right below the church, playing down and around through that area. So there's a photo, 1910. I can't tell, but I kind of like to think this is probably ash over here, waiting to be pounded and prepped. I don't know who's in the photo. I just using the church as a frame of reference. And so out behind it by the sailboat, obviously, is what's now known as Canada and Deer Isle. So, next slide. 1935, here's that same train trestle in its form. If you look down here on the far right about the 3 o'clock position, that's not filled in yet. That's just the suspended rails going out there. And I don't know if this is right before construction or if there's something else going on here. I don't know. But I just thought it was a really neat photo. It has the fishware. Clearly, I mean, there's a couple of boats coming in. I think this is probably more a fishing related event with the baskets and boats coming in. But I don't know for sure, but I grabbed that because it had a nice picture of the trestle in it as well. So that's 1935. Next slide, please, Rachel. So here's one, 1936. Here's a different perspective looking back. There's the church, brick building now, which I believe it burned and was rebuilt in 1928. And there's the old school. And here it is, it's starting to get filled in. You have the trestle that are just dumping rocks and gravel. And those are probably all creosote treated timbers that the trestle was built with that are now embedded under all those structures and under the causeway. So when later on, when we talk a little bit about opening the causeway, that's going to be a consideration. That's hazardous material now and has to be dealt with accordingly. It's been entombed for, what, 70, 80, 90 years now. So that's going to be a issue going forward. Next one, please. Just another photo with it tied up now. Little clearer view of some of the homes and the school and the church, and that's First Island up there again about the 3 o'clock position on the photo. A little history about the cancellation of the project and the impacts it had to the city of Eastport and really throughout the region from an economic standpoint. But what a lot of these photos, I think, were intended to show was the construction piece, the brick and mortar part of it. And they're silent on the impacts it's had to Passamaquoddy, on the culture, on the tradition, on the harvesting of resources that we depended upon.
And when you say the project, you mean the Quaddy Dam?
Yes, correct. Thank you, Rachel. I'd like to find that car though. It's a pretty neat looking car.
Next slide.
Next one, please. This is just another perspective. They've got these drills going out there on Cowles Island. You see the train there, up there on the upper right. It's filled in at this point. They use the train cars to come in and they would just dump all the gravel and rock and fill. And basically there's the train trestle now that you saw the picture before stretching across is now filled in, and it's a pretty substantial dam that was created through that process. Again, just another perspective with the church in the background. So, next one, please. So this is, I'll explain this a little bit. This map came from a little bit later. This wasn't, I think this was developed after that project, I think more in the 70s, but just the sheer, I don't know, obscene enthusiasm, right? And the plan was this. I'm gonna have to get in the light and point this out a little bit. So this is Lakeith Passage. They wanted to dam all this off. They wanted to dam going from Campobello over to Indian Island to what's known as Deer Island. They wanted to dam here out by the spark plug, and they wanted to dam these right here. What I showed you before, the area we're talking about is right in here. So that was part of this big project. The plan was that entire Passamaquoddy Bay, the whole section here, was going to be separated and cut off from the Atlantic Ocean and Gulf of Maine. All of Copscook Bay, the entire thing down here, all the way out to the spark plug and over, was going to be cut off and separated from the Gulf of Maine. And the idea was there's a high pool and there's a low pool, and they were going to just work the tidal flushing, right, to generate tidal power. That was the big concept. That was the overarching view. Could you imagine how that's just obscene to think that we're going to harness that much of the natural environment for our purposes in that way? It almost gets me angry today thinking about it, thinking about the devastation that would have had, not just on Passamaquoddy, anybody in the region, any living creature in the entire region, what that would have done if it went forward. So I wanted to share this one with you just to give you a sense of the scale of what was being contemplated in that time. And part of that, the initial phases of it, were the causeways. These started being constructed. Going through Sabaya, that was part of this big master plan. So just wanted to put that out there to go back to that other question about it was part of the causeway project. But
Was the project international?
good question. I don't know for sure. I'm sure it probably was. I think it would have had to have been, just because of all this happening over here. And if you're not familiar with that, it just boggles my mind to think even an engineering, how ambitious were they to think that they could engineer dams in that section of Lateef Passage, Little Lateef. It's mind boggling. So I think it probably would have had to been because that's clearly all on the other side of what's now known as the international border. All of these are actually, the only piece, there's the border coming down through. So, but I don't know for sure. I assume it probably was.
Ralph, I think all the work was done on the US side.
Right. Yeah, I think they got going and they started implementing that and then it went bankrupt and world events or whatever else the eventual cause was. Thankfully, it was abandoned. And that's what we've got. But we have remnants of that left over. And some of them are the causeways going through connecting Sabike and Eastport.
It was Roosevelt's dream, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was a big, he had a place out here on Campobello. So it was right in the middle of his summer area. So it was all part of that. But I look at this and it blows my mind. I just can't, the marine life, the aquatic life and everything associated with that region just being cut off to that extent. But there's that. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit, the tribal council at Sabike just passed a resolution on March 4th. I didn't bring the entire resolution. I don't feel comfortable making those documents public, the internal tribal documents, but I did take a little bit of language from that. And this is just part of it. They formally recognized that those causeways, the impact they've had on the community. Those of us in the community have known for years that it's been detrimental. But it's nice that, and a lot of this had to do with Ed Bassett. He was the one who started talking about, let's get the tribe on record in a formal way as part of our administrative record, taking a position on this particular issue. I don't think it's been done up until this point. He developed most of this, and this was presented to council March 4th, and they passed it. So there's a formal resolution with Sabike's position on the causeway now. And the idea is that hopefully when we start trying to coordinate with funding resources to make this happen, they can just reference this and say, well, where does the tribe stand on it? Well, here it is. Here's a resolution. That's where we stand on it. So that's the idea of long-term planning, thinking down the road. Next slide, please. So since then, that night, as a matter of fact, Chief Bassett, not Ed Bassett, Chief Buzz Bassett, that night, the same night this resolution was passed by council, he designated staff to be point of contact for the causeway effort. In addition to that, we've been trying to get, in the last couple of months now, trying to get these added to our Bureau of Indian Affairs facility inventory. Because one of the things that we'll do is when we go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and ask for funding to advance this project, the first thing they will ask us is it listed on your inventory? So this is just a procedural thing. We want to be able to say, yes, it is. A resolution was presented to the tribe at Sabike prior to the March 4th, like overarching resolution that said, yes, get these listed. So there was work happening even prior to that resolution, clearly. We're looking at other options right now. I've been in contact with NRCS. It's the same people who are doing the Bay of Fundy Aquatic Connectivity Project that we spoke with about last night. And one of the ideas was maybe this causeway project can be a separate standalone project under their Public Law 566 program. That's what we're exploring now. Maine DOT was identified as probably a necessary partner with the tribe The tribe doesn't have the capacity to take on a project of that size by themselves at this point. And it would require, partnership with Maine DOT, which is kind of interesting, because it's the same entity that in the fifties condemned the middle of our village and bisected it with a road, which now carries trucks and hazardous material and traffic. So fast forward a few years later, I think it's a good opportunity for maybe some healing and some, mitigation and a way to maybe improve that going forward. Just being optimistic, but that's the entity that we will probably need to engage with to advance this on that piece. We have a current ongoing study with the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a planning assistance to state study. Again, I don't like that term, but it's just the term that they use. We were engaging with them under a Section 203 authority. This is Army Corps lingo. We were advancing the study to look at the feasibility of where do we open this causeway? What does that look like? What are the options? And maybe start getting at some cost estimates for that type of project. That the study under that authority had to be terminated because that's geared specifically for studies on tribal territory. When we got to the real estate piece, the tribe owns the part of that highway, the causeway, that is under the railroad bridge, the old rail bridge, and the state of Maine owns the part that's under the highway. So because it wasn't wholly within tribal territory anymore, that authority had to end. We've picked up that study and it's still ongoing under a different authority, a planning assistance to state authority. So right now, the status of that study is it's a lot of desktop modeling right now, hydraulic modeling. They're modeling the water in both Passamaquoddy and Cobscook Bay area to see how the different openings, the different scenarios along that causeway would look. And it's really cool stuff. It kind of makes you feel like a kid again, right? It's a model, it's live, it's moving, and you can see the water flowing, and it's nice stuff, really. So hopefully that study can go forward and on what it is, the end of next year, I believe. So maybe 16, 17, maybe 18 months out at the most, we should have a report from Army Corps that's going to have all those options available and some preliminary cost analysis. I don't want to be premature and say this is going to be part of the report, but more than likely, it looks like it's going to be recommended for bridges. Culverts aren't going to work. There's too much tidal flow. There's too much force going through there. And if you ever get a chance, go down to Sabayak, go down to Split Rock at low tide, walk out on the beach, and it feels like you're just looking up at this huge wall. It's a huge project. I don't think culverts would be suitable. I'm not an engineer, but those are the conversations. That feels like where that report's starting to go. So more than likely, the recommendation is going to be bridges in 1 or 2 places at least. So, and we're continuing to partner with Bay of Fundy Aquatic Connectivity Project. One of the other things is continuing to look for funding opportunities. That's why we're approaching the BIA piece to it. We're trying to chase down with Natural Resource Conservation Service. We're not opposed to looking at private funding if that's necessary. And although we've had unprecedented times in terms of aquatic connectivity projects recently in the last 4 or 5 years, I think that's coming to a screeching halt going forward, which is extremely unfortunate. However, the saving piece is what I started off with, that great question from that lady last night. Doesn't matter. We're into it for the long haul. We're going to be doing this throughout all the ebbs and flows of these funding cycles and all the ebbs and flows of these different efforts. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to give you a quick, I couldn't talk about just the causeway, again, right down here, without talking about some of these other projects. And I want to talk briefly about these other projects because it's aquatic connectivity. You can't do it and talk about just one site. There's so much more going on throughout the entire region that complements the opening of the causeway. So for example, the 3 yellow pins are projects that the Sabayak Environmental Department funding and has received to improve the road stream crossings and the aquatic organism passage at those sites. The Boyden Stream one is real nice because that's right above PWD. So there's not only fish passage concerns there, but there's quality of water. So that's a real important site. Sip Brook is another one. Those culverts are a mess over there and there's a lot to be improved there. Willow Brook is right down in Pembroke. And there's another one, these three sites, and there's a fourth one in East Machias and Chase Mill Stream. And that's interesting because that's a endangered salmon water over on Chase Mill Stream going up to that way. So those 4 sites, the Sabine Environmental Department is working on, not exclusively, but they're essentially our projects. Corbett Brook is right at the head of Half Moon Cove. That's not our project. We're collaborating with Maine DMR. We did supply them letters of support, but it's not our project. We'll be working with them to do that site as well. Dolna Bend, Denny's River. That's another site we're working on. The idea there would be, there's an old decrepit DMR fishway there. We want to remove that and replace it with a nature-like fishway. Again, this is, and I referenced this one because clearly it flows down to the Denny's, dumps in Denny'sville into Cobscook Bay, which is right adjacent to this. Those same fish have to come right through here, right by this causeway section to get up to, up into the Denny's River, up to Meadowlands Lake. That site there clearly is significant, you know, the archaeological evidence that's there and the importance that that particular site holds for Passamaquoddy, of an ancient fishing village. And we did, just last year, about 1 million fish, I believe it was. Good.
Sorry to interrupt.
The other ones, the big ones over on the Scudic River, I won't talk a whole lot about them other than, I'm sorry, I apologize. This one, that's Grand Falls. You can just see the bottom of the pen on top. And I referenced earlier when they were talking about above Scudic Falls. So I think this is, they were probably talking about Township. That's Grand Falls, Woodland Dam, hopefully going out to bid here very soon. A huge project to build a fish lift there. It's just a giant project and a pool and shoot fishway. So there'll be 2 technical fishways there in that place to hopefully continue to move the fish upstream at Woodland. And up at Grand Falls, we're at about the 30% design now for a nature-like fishway, similar to the one, if you're familiar with, over in Howland. And we just put in Sabine Environmental just put in for another grant to do a pool and shoot fishway at Grand Falls as well. So the idea is that we have redundant systems in both places. You really don't want to just bank on one, especially with a technical fishway. You don't want to just have one, especially a fish lift. You're talking pulleys, cables, a mechanical contraption. It's just imprudent to bank on that as the only thing that's going to sustain this harvest of sea run fish up through the Scudic. So we're doing a pool and shoot there as well. Just wanted to offer those as something to think about of the connectivity. So the Scudic main stem, lots going on that system, a lot of good work. All those fish come down through, go right by Sabine, right by the causeway. A lot of nice work, great work happening on the other side of the causeway with these other projects, and all those fish come right out in Cobscook Bay and go right by the other side of the causeway. So I just wanted to share some of the ongoing efforts. And the other thing I wanted to mention from last night's meeting as well was they provided a map of the 50 sites that they've prioritized under the Bay of Fundy project, and they're all throughout this region as well. So there's just a lot of aquatic restoration and connectivity work happening. And all of that will be complemented, I think, very nicely by the opening of the causeways as well. So just wanted to share some of those thoughts and the overall picture. Next slide, please. If anybody has any questions, I will try to answer them as best I can.
So thank you, Ralph. So I just want to say, also thank you for stating that your position in terms of like, this has to be led from the Passamaquoddy side. And there was an effort back in the teens where they wanted to do that and it just kind of fell apart at the end. Right, working with Eastport and Federal Department of Transportation as well, and Maine Department of Transportation, but it didn't happen. One thing I do remember from that, one of the studies that they put through is when that 190 went in, and in the research of it, they had, I thought it was 1,100 trucks a month going through 190 down to the port. So that's significant.
Yeah. I mean, and all of that, Newell, as you said, without consultation with the tribe,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And, so there it is. That was part of that continued encroachment and seizing. And I agree. I think that's, I thought about that a little more in depth last night with that question. Like, how can you, I think the lady's question was about how can you ensure sustained effort with these kinds of projects?
Right.
And that's the answer. You're right, 100%. It should be and needs to be led, in my belief, by Passamaquoddy.
Right in the front yard.
Right in the front yard, and it impacts us on such a profound level. It impacts the entire region, Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people alike. But I think the impacts for Passamaquoddy is a bit different in the culture and the traditions and the language and what this has done to our community. And going back even to Chief Neptune, when he was like, no, that's non-negotiable. Symbiotic is the place.
All right, so I will open it up to MITSC commissioners and then others as well. But so we'll start on the screen. If anyone have any comments on the Zoom? Rena?
I would just like to say Chiwili to Ralph for his presentation. And I'm always appreciative when I continue to hear the story, of the causeway. So thank you for being with us today, Ralph. And thank you, Willie One, for allowing me to hear it once again.
And we'll go to Bert if you want to, any questions, comments, Bert?
No, I just want to say to you, Willie One. It's an interesting presentation, and always keep my prayers for it going forward. Willie One.
Lewin, Dr. Ranko.
Yeah, no, just thanks for sharing that. That's extraordinary work. Also, I'm gonna see you later, right, Ralph?
Yes, I've got to get out of here by noon, and I will see you this afternoon.
No, just this is any way we can support. I mean, I really think the commission, the MITSC for us to hear the story and how critical this is to you all is just can't be told enough. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Lewin, Ezekiel.
Hey everyone. Well, just sharing similar words of gratitude. This is information I didn't know. I'm not all that familiar with Symbiotic, so that was really helpful. But also, I guess more of a practical question. What can we do to help?
I'll take a swing at that. I think the timing of these kinds of things is crucial. And I guess I'll summarize it with this. I think if we just continue to work at relationship building amongst Wabanaki, amongst non-Indigenous communities, at the end of the day, I think if we approach this and we're respectful and we honor relationships and try to build them in a healthy way, that's what's going to help. That's what's going to get us through. That's what will provide us the longevity to be able to continue at going towards these kinds of issues. And knowing that there's support and appreciation you know, amongst the, Wabanaki communities is huge. And I think that should be reciprocal. And that's part of that relationship building process that I think we've gotten away from, in more recent times, and we need to refocus and recenter on those kinds of things.
Sam,
Zeke pretty much said whatever I was thinking, so I'll just pass.
okay, Leland? No,
Great project, look forward to seeing this, where it goes. And what the options will be down the road.
The reality of it is, it may not happen in my career or even my lifetime. That's the reality of these kinds of the scale, project of this scale. I'd like to think it will, but I think it's long-term planning. I think it's we just need to keep at it, and you know, whomever can participate and contribute in a meaningful way to incrementally move that needle towards success in this area is what we need to stay mindful of. Thanks.
Mr. Checker?
Thanks very much. Just out of curiosity, how did those encroachments take place, like the building of the road? Was there a taking by eminent domain?
Mike makes right.
Yeah.
Mike makes right.
It was just done.
Yeah, basically it was, I know at least in the 50s, I'm not as familiar with the 30s with the rail piece of it, but I'm sure it was the same thing. Eminent domain, I know that section was condemned by the state of Maine, so they used that authority to put the highway in. And as Eric mentioned, you have the armies, the authority, the strength to continue just to overwhelm and marginalize, for this example, Passamaquoddy in that region, in the village.
So there was no amendment to the old treaties, just.
No, not that I'm aware of. This was just, get out of the way, we need to put our road in here to get into Eastport. Yeah.
Thank you.
No federal recognition for the tribe.
I will just add one more little piece to that, just an anecdotal piece. In protest to that, putting the highway in, my dad took the ride on the hood of somebody's car one night when they were out there protesting that highway through the community. So it wasn't a long ride. I think it was just, you know, maybe a few car lengths, but nonetheless, he did take a little ride. So that's just an example of the profound sensitivity of this particular issue, you know, having this done to our community and our people.
I would add to Ralph's comment in regards to when that protest occurred. I was just a child, and my grandmother's house was, you know, it's at the base of the causeway. And apparently I wasn't listening and I should have been in bed, but I recognized that something was occurring at the end of my driveway. And I actually witnessed as a child what Ralph just spoke about in regards to his father on the hood of a vehicle. I witnessed that as a child.
Leland, I'd like to recognize Chief Sabatis as well, has joined us, and if you have any comments or questions?
No, I wish I had been able to get here a little earlier and hear the rest of it, but thank you.
Okay, and then anyone else in the room?
Well, I just think it's worthwhile mentioning that, the Port of Eastport has a grand scheme that they've been talking about for several years that would involve the construction of a bridge between Perry and Carlo Island. Not to facilitate a road and a railway. And there's been discussions with the tribe about that in the past. And part of that project would involve opening up the causeway completely. But I wanted to ask Ralph, there's been some naysayers within the tribal population who seem to think that this is not necessary or a waste of time. Do you know what the genesis of that all is?
I don't. I can only maybe suspect that it's, you know, and I think I try to fend this off. I think we all do that. We get used to seeing things a certain way, and we don't recognize that it was never like that originally. and we just accept it as truth today. And maybe that's where they're coming from. They've gotten used to that causeway. They accept that that's the way it is, and therefore they just assume leave it the way it is and not want to try to get it back to the way it was. That's the only thing I could maybe offer, that they may be coming from that perspective. And it happens often, you know, we encounter this all the time with a lot of our other restoration work when we talk about dam removals. And people are like, oh my gosh, I'm a third generation sport fisherman. I've known this my whole life. You know, you can't change this. That's the way it's always been. No, it is not. I think that's what we bring. We bring that different perspective, that that's not the way it always was. And that leads into the other question before. That's why I believe we need to be leading this, because we have that perspective, that length of history, that record that we can go back to and say, this is the way it was, this is the way it needs to be now.
Just one quick story. My father told me after that causeway was put in by Split Rock, he witnessed wild Atlantic salmon trying to go up the Dennisville River. They were literally bumping their noses up against the stones and the aggregate riprap that was there, trying to get up to Dennisville River, because it was in the DNA. And that area was also a lobster breeding ground too.
So William, I was gonna ask if, so that piece you mentioned, the bridge from Carlo to Perry, and they had talked about a rail, but that was like 10 or 16, I mean, 10 or 11 years ago. Is that discussion still happening?
I talked to the head of the presentation at the Port Authority office about 2 years
With Chris?
ago. 2 years ago, Chris Gardner, yeah. And you know, but you know what that takes? Money.
Yeah.
It's a big scheme, and it's all part and parcel of the possibility of opening up Northwest Passage after global warming gets rid of all the ice to make it a free passage through there, because Eastport is closer to the European markets than any other port in the US. But another drawback of that is that they don't have the geographical landmass. Eastport is, you know, I imagine a super port on the island of Eastport. I wouldn't want to see it myself.
Right, Bert has a question.
Robert.
Actually, it's not a question, but I think that I'm sure we have other people, indigenous and non-indigenous people, that are viewing our meeting here. And I just wanted to say something, with all the discussion that's been taking place, you know, and we all know, especially, you know, our indigenous population, we know all the pushback that always seems to come when we're trying to take care of things, correct things, that, you know, the damages that have been done. And I just want to say to everyone viewing this is that, look, we're not, you know, in opposition of non-indigenous people. We are just here to correct the wrongs that have been done, the damage that's been done. We as Wabanaki people, indigenous people, we have a responsibility to all Wabanaki, and that doesn't mean just the people, but it means the land, all that is, you know, that lives and thrives on the land and its waterways, the air. So I'm asking, you know, for all people to come forward and support the efforts that are going on here. You know, we're not, you know, enemies. Our responsibility is for all that live and thrive on our lands. That includes the people, the descendants of the colonists that came. We're not here to cause problems for you. We're trying to correct the problems that have been made. Willie one.
Ryan, do you have anything?
MITSC first.
Oh.
I just had a question. I think you mentioned that this isn't part of the connectivity project.
Correct.
And Rachel has been participating in that project, eyes and ears of MITSC. She hasn't taken any formal positions. So I just wanted to clarify, are you asking that Rachel get involved in this and observe, or is this completely within the tribe itself?
The Causeway project?
Yeah, your comment.
Yeah, I've gone to a couple of those meetings, and actually, it was nice last night, at last night's meeting, they went through and spelled out how they prioritized those 50 sites under the Bay of Fundy Aquatic Connectivity Project. And just so you know, the partners in that, the sponsors are DIF&W and DMR. Passamaquoddy Tribe is a partner, has been a partner on that project from day one. So we're already involved with that, we're already pursuing that. There was a lot of questions about the causeway, how come that wasn't listed in that project? And especially after last night's meeting, the only thing I can offer there is they had a metrics, a decision-making metrics for like upstream passage, upstream miles of habitat, different species that would be prevented from crossing. So the outlook was really geared more towards dams on streams, road stream crossings kind of scenarios. And I think they overlooked, what about in the marine environment? I don't subscribe to this idea, but I have heard people say, well, that connectivity that was cut off between Passamaquoddy Bay and Cobscook Bay is detrimental, and it absolutely is. However, these fish do have an alternate route. They can go around depending on which river system they're trying to get up into. That doesn't mean it's right. I'm just saying, I think that may have gone into that thought process of, well, it's not preventing passage. It's preventing the connectivity between the two bays, certainly. And as Eric mentioned, the species that were decimated, that existed in Half Moon Cove, absolutely, no question. So maybe that was part of it too, but to try to answer your question, I told them at the meeting there, last slide, phone number, email, Shabak Environmental Department, stop by, call. Absolutely, it's going to take collaboration and coordination. That one project over at Woodland, we're in the neighborhood of a $50 million project, right? And we've got a myriad of restoration partners involved in that. So I think this project here, opening the causeway, that's the scale I think that we're going to be talking about, at least. So we're into it for the long haul. It's going to require collaboration and coordination with a whole host of different individuals and entities.
No, Zeke.
Hey everyone. Well, Willie and I just want to say Willie and Bert too. Thank you for your words earlier. Bob mentioned eminent domain, and we had a little brief conversation about that. And I think now might be a good opportunity to bring up that we have a bill specifically dealing with eminent domain in the state legislature this session. So eminent domain is not something that is practiced on tribal trust lands traditionally in the rest of the country for other federally recognized nations. It is practiced here in the state of Maine. It is allowed to be in the law because of the Settlement Act, which specifically allows the state to take tribal trust lands if they deem necessary. And if I recall correctly, Chief Nicholas, when he was testifying in the public hearing, mentioned the causeway. I don't think he mentioned it by name, but he mentioned the road as an instance when the state practiced, not the state, it would be the federal government practiced that here in the state. And the goal of this bill will be to eliminate that language, update the Settlement Act to no longer allow the state to take tribal trust lands. And the governor, Mills, recently came out publicly opposing the bill. So, you know, we might have a bit of a fight on our hands. So the bill is sponsored by Billy Bob Falkingham, and we have a lot of bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle. But if we face Mills' veto, it will be, we're going to need a lot of support. So I just want to bring that up and put that on everyone's radar because this issue is in the news right now and is what we're dealing with. I also see Chief Sabatis there, if you want to add any more to it, right? Izagam, because well, this effort is supported by each one of the chiefs. So, Chief Sabatis, if you want to add anything more.
I think you pretty well covered it. I think to me, it was just no surprise that Mills couldn't get behind it. I do think it's unfortunate that some of the language that was used is not true. And that if this does pass, they said they could never change it. Well, that's not the truth. It's that they have to come to the table with us and work with the tribes to be able to do that. So I think that's the biggest thing. And if you can help people understand that if they do come to you, that is not true. It really is about working with us instead of just making decisions on our behalf. Thank you, Zeke.
I would like to comment as well. Good morning, Chief Sabatis. Good to see you. I want to say Willie one to Ambassador Crofton McDonald for bringing that up. I had it in my notes, after Ralph's presentation, I was just going to mention this bill. I would add that the bill number is LD 958. Conversation in this presentation, there was reference in the testimony that referred to the causeway. And I would just add that there was a work session that was held on April 9th and it was tabled. So we're not sure when it's going to be brought up again within committee for the committee to take a vote to have it move forward. But I would echo again what Ambassador Crofton McDonald mentioned as far as the state's position. And we're understanding they're not in support, which is unfortunate. But Willie went.
So anyone else did, Rachel, did you have any comments?
Just my gratitude for getting to listen to everything that's been shared.
Likewise, excellent presentation. The history is fascinating.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's just make a quick comment.
Good.
This bill that's being spoken about for the right of way and eminent domain being removed. As a tribal member, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. Had I known about it, I would have at the very least submitted written testimony. A lot of the issues, I'm going to say, / problems we have on tribal government level is most tribal members don't know what tribal government is doing. Perhaps that might be something MITSC could assist in as a role in educating tribal members about what's going on. But when this meeting was happening today, I posted it on 5 different tribal member only Facebook groups. And one of the comments says, I got, what, you giving us information? You're not supposed to do that unless you have permission. That's the perception.
Yeah.
So there's also, you'll also have another person that was supposed to be here speaking to another agenda item. That's the biggest reason I came down today.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're right. And I think Representative Dana just spoke at the last. I don't know what he spoke at, actually. I saw it somewhere, but he should be giving out information as well. And you're right, it could do that part also.
Knowledge is power is what I'm trying to say. And if we don't know, we don't have any power.
Exactly.
Part of the problem is we don't know what the legislature is doing sometimes until days before. I mean, they come up with these concept drafts and you gotta guess by what the title is, what they're talking about. I don't know if that was the case with LD 958. I said that was public hearing April 4th, tabled April 9th. So there was a 5-day window there and I don't know what's happened to it.
It's probably the public hearing, and then they usually have a work session like a week after, and sometimes they'll just choose to table it at the work session.
Well, Bob, I had mentioned that.
There's listservs that you can join for the judiciary committees, so
Yes.
that you can get all of the notices
Yes.
for when public hearings are happening or work sessions are happening. And they're available to everyone for a variety of different committees, marine resources, judiciary, inland fisheries and wildlife. All of those committees have listservs that give, and there's more information that is provided through the listservs in a timely fashion frequently than is posted on the internet generally. So if you're not on the listserv, sometimes you're not getting those documents. Sometimes they're submitted like 24 hours in advance. Like, here's a proposed amendment that we're gonna hear at the work session.
Yeah.
Like, that'll come through the listserv, but it won't be posted on the internet, which is frustrating for everyone.
I think the Alliance does a really good job too at the forecasting what's coming out and explaining what some of these bills mean and could mean to the tribe.
Who is that again?
The
Sorry.
Wabanaki Alliance.
Oh, Wabanaki Alliance.
They've been doing a lot of that. And I will agree with Pat Warden. I didn't even realize that was you until you turned around. That sometimes it's a really quick turnaround and sometimes I know, in really short order and have to pull stuff together. So, but yeah, I think that the Alliance has done a really great job at kind of forecasting those things and getting information out and sharing that. So if you have access to their page too, I think that works.
All right, so does anyone else have, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, like I said before, thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, sure.
For the presentation. Like I said before, I'm here as a tribal member, I'm not here as part of the first time had anything to do with the bay was late 75, 76. I had an aquaculture program, and they did a lot of tests on the Half Moon coast side of the bay. And at the time, Dr. Norman LaBerge wanted to put a dam from the Perry side to the Quality side. And they did a feasibility study, and what they found was there'd only be 76 return, profits from electricity on every dollar invested. And at the time, they were talking less than $2 million to put a dam from one side to the other. Well, since then, I've changed my mind about putting any dams. I think that we need to open that up. I know we could talk about this all day, but when they shut off, to me, it's a dam. The fish that used to migrate up on to Whiting Bay in that area, I'm thinking about herring, Atlantic herring, sardines. They said that they had dozens of fish weirs up there. And when they blocked off the causeways, the two causeways, no more fish went up there. And since they put in that causeway, there's 12 feet of muck and silt in that whole channel. And it's hurting the clam population. And some of the elders have referred to that as nothing but a muck hole. My grandmother was born, in 1898. She told me of riding on, riding the train going into Eastport, working in Eastport at the sardine factories. At the time, Eastport was, I believe, the sardine capital of the world. I don't know the exact number, but there's been mention of 27 active sardine factories in Eastport. And the population on the weekend would swell from, sometimes it'd be 50,000 people in Eastport. And I think the population, my brother lives there, is less than 2,000. So it's changed a lot. And I'm a lifelong resident of Sebae. And I talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people over the years. And I know the elders, I guess they consider me an elder, although I was only born in 55. My brother's 3 years older than me. I brought an elder with me today, Tony Nicholas, who was 82 years old. He went down to the VA and he should be coming here any minute now. We played cribbage together, we talked. And one day I gave him a boat ride. He had never been around Deer Island in a boat in his life, never been around Deer Island. And so, one of the things that Ralph didn't talk about was the fact that they took the Milltown Dam out between St. Stephen's and Callis. And that's huge. And the fish population has jumped way up there. It's jumped way up there since, LD 72, when they allowed fish up the St. Croix, the Squamish River. So now they're talking about harvesting alewives and there may be between 1.5 and 2 million fish that, migrated up the river. They estimate between 45 and 80 million fish used to be in that river to spawn every spring. And even today, it has more potential than the Penobscot River and the Kennebec River combined. If you can imagine that. Just on the main stem, they say there's 30 somewhat of lakes that dump into the St. Croix River. And anyway, so we've been meeting with MITSC a little bit, the Living Ties. We've got a group and we meet either online or at Copscook Institute. We had some meetings on site. I've seen Jill there, of course. Rachel's part of Living Ties too. And originally, I thought Eddie Bassett and I were supposed to come up here and talk and give a presentation. And next thing we know, we're disinvited. Eddie didn't find out till the day or the day before that, he was no longer here to talk. Like Ralph said, Eddie's been involved in this many, many years. And, another thing that I do is I'm a Squamish River keeper, have been for a while. And when I talk to, excuse me just a second, my grandson's trying to call me. When I talked to my spiritual advisor at the time, just passed on to the spirit world since, he died in 2011. He told me to be patient, and he says, you gotta help open up that causeway. And so, I vowed to him that I would do whatever I could to help make that happen, regardless of what part I play in, whether it's a small piece or a larger piece. It's the same thing when Eddie Bassett and I, we started the River Keepers. And we said that this is lifelong. Even when we're gone, if it hasn't happened to restore the Squamish River, the work needs to continue. And so, when Eddie and I were disinvited, and I listened to Newell's opening prayer, he talked about loving everyone, caring for everyone, and that's the last thing I felt when I was disinvited. And it isn't about my pride. It's about what I can bring to the table, what I can offer. I think that Eddie should have been here. I'm here. And I think Dr. Wood should have been here. He's got a PhD in marine science. Is very familiar with these sorts of things. Ralph mentioned working together, tribal members working together. I agree. But there's a lot of undercurrent going on and potentially personalities and stuff. And I think it just lessens our chances to be successful. To me, the river, the bay belongs to all of us. And it is up to all of us to bring it to as close to the way it was before. And one thing that was talked about but not stressed is you take a look, like my brother's a fluent speaker. Certainly Tony Nicholas is 82 years old, is as fluent as anybody comes. Is when that highway in 55 came through the reservation, you take a look at the fluent speakers, and it seems like people that were born after 55 don't know the language as well as the people before 55. So, I'm here to help. I'm here to do what I can. Because to me, opening up the St. Croix River at Milltown is huge. But to open that causeway up is 100 times greater to me and a lot of people in our community. Because a lot of them I've talked to since I was kids. You know, this fall I'll be 70 years old. I know a lot of people in the community. I talk to them each and every day. Elders, a lot of the elders. I don't know the young people anymore. My grandkids know them, but I don't know. And so, you know, we got to pull together because, you know, it's kind of a little disheartening when you guys can't even have a forum here. You know, I think the height of MITSC to me was when Paul Zolka was here. And there was a lot of things going on. Hopefully MITSC can get to that point. But shunning someone and trying to discount them, it isn't the way to do it. No.
I just respond to that just a piece to that, Ryan. With the accumulation of the silt and the sediment, part of that study that's ongoing right now is going to be a dredging plan as well to help try to mitigate some of those things you pointed out. There's been a lot of borings done and sediment sampling and looking at the LiDAR study with the benthic environment. So the dredging plan will be part of this. So they're going to model, you know, like if they open that and put a bridge by Split Rock, you know, how far, to what extent would dredging be required once that flow starts going through there? And that's all unknown, but so that kind of work, trying to identify that is ongoing as well. So
Kennebec River flushed out in no time.
yeah, and hopefully this will too, right? I mean, but I think they can identify some of that. I'm not hanging my hat on the computer modeling, right? I think it can get us quite a bit further down the road than we are today without seeing that. But it's not going to be the one answer, but they're going to model different openings, different sizes, and different dredging plans to try to flush all that sediment you referenced, Ryan, out of the bay again. Get back down close to that harder bottom. So just wanted to add that piece on.
So the only one we haven't heard from was Teresa. I believe you want to have any comments, Teresa?
Nothing for me on the spot, thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell who that was talking. It almost sounded like Brian.
It is.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, I apologize if you know, for any reason you felt that you were not invited. Because as far as I'm concerned, anytime that we have people, especially our indigenous people, needing to, you know, come forth, you need to be able to come forth. So, you know, I don't know what the issue was, but as far as I'm concerned, if you feel that you're not being heard, let me know. And I think there's other of our indigenous commissioners here who probably feel the same. So, you know, maybe there was just something, you know, maybe it wasn't a personality thing. I don't know. But, you know, we need to be heard. There was the things that are, especially Ryan, I know you have a long history of doing things on behalf of our indigenous population. So, you know, to have you heard in this group, I think it's very important. So you know, again, I send my apologies if, you know, what, you know, your feelings, you know, behind this, you know, are valid, you know. So anyway, we'll leave one for coming forth and speaking anyhow.
Thanks for that, Kurt.
I would also like to echo that as well. That and on the note earlier about communication, I think communication and communicating what's happening in Augusta and what's happening in the State House is an ongoing problem that we I mean, it's huge. I know it's just everyone every citizen wants to know what's going on. So the chief mentioned earlier the Wabanaki Alliance. The alliance is still fairly new, but one of the things that I think the alliance is doing pretty well is communicating what's going on. So if you want to follow the Facebook page, there's also a bi-weekly meeting with we call it the Coalition for Interested People to get updates about what's happening directly from the Wabanaki Alliance board members who one of which is myself and Rena here as well. People who can share what's going on. And it's ultimately led by the chiefs who serve as the advisors for the alliance. And we are attempting to fill in that little communication issue to a certain extent. We noticed this was a problem. So every other week, we are going to attempt to hold community forums. We've had 2 so far, and those kind of community forums will be a place for the alliance to directly address community members. So anyone who is a Wabanaki person will hopefully have the opportunity to log into those meetings. But those are still brand new. So if you haven't heard about it yet, now is a great opportunity to learn, I guess, because we're still trying to get the word out. The past couple we've had, been very low attendance. It's been hard to get people to engage on it, but it's something that we want to do. So if you can share that as far as wide with all your community members as possible, we share it on Facebook and on the social media links, but that only reaches so far. So yeah, really one.
Lindsay. So I'll just say that you were not disinvited, Brian. I know that I came onto the agenda, and I know that it's a big issue with the tribal government as well, and I did want to hear from them. And you've been in meetings in the past where you were the one speaking on the issue. So, and I know, like it was just said, we want this to be a tribal, Passamaquoddy driven agenda. So I don't know if anybody else had any comments. Ralph?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Just
thank you.
waiting, just anybody else had any questions, and if not, appreciate the time. Sure.
You get to learn.
Oh, Rena's got it. Oh, thank you so much.
Rena?
And
Maybe she thought you were leaving, Ralph.
yeah, it might be waving. That might be the hand. Let's see.
Gotta run. Thank you all.
Well, thank you for being
Nice to meet you. Be in touch.
In person.
Yeah.
I texted Teresa and said she's willing to wait till 12:30. Is that convenient for you to break for lunch?
Yeah, whatever you want to do, it's fine. One, go and come back at 12:30.
And we have sandwiches and chips and beverages and a treat for dessert.
A treat.
Yeah, so did everyone hear that? We're gonna take a lunch break and come back at. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to mute the audio on the room, but I'm not sure. I can do it. So the live stream here,
Can you silence it then?
not on my computer, but no, on.
All right, so see you back at 12:30 online.
Noel,
Yeah.
it's me for the afternoon session. I have at 12:30 with Chief Bassett.
Okay.
Okay, update,
All right, William.
everyone.
Yes, please, Lisa.
Did you want it? I will need it. Just copy it onto your.
Okay,
If you want. that's
sure.
fine.
Great.
Right.
Sit down for a great presentation, those photographs are.
Yeah, this is great.
the whole thing.
Okay.
I gotta watch it, I gotta watch it. Check off it. All of the time. Yes, no.
This is in the package. If you're okay, just gonna make sure you're in there.
Today, yes, exactly. Yes, it's only drive a little short distance to the meeting, yeah.
Coffee, I started myself.
I did. Yeah. I always just, but cut it in there, because I'm used to my individual life.
Yeah, and I work with them and,
Okay,
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's full. I think so, yeah, it looks like,
I see what you're saying. I did, yeah, I looked aside, I stated it, I stated.
We'll find out, I don't have any with another, okay, well,
I've been doing that all morning.
if it keeps going, I'll,
I gotta write instructions for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, these for her.
And I looked for them, yes.
Oh.
So it's.
Yes, oh my God, that was a really long time.
yeah.
Heading out too, huh?
You came right in on cue.
I'm gonna have to help Jill.
You're welcome.
Here's a picture, Brian.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think my dad is.
Talking 30 years now.
Okay. I'm just talking about. I know, I looked at like really.
On it now.
Okay. I was just talking like.
Confirmed all prior transfers, right? Yeah, confirmed all prior transfers, right?
They wanna move this way.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I just thought. It's for, biology.
Oh, really?
They weren't even know.
Is this yours, Jill?
And I picked up on that.
Hey, any word?
I've been talking.
Yeah.
He's working out. Maybe he's gonna get good find.
Alright, so weirdly, we've been struggling, I guess, I just got some stuff about. Jill is.
Watch it to make sure it doesn't do anything.
Smarter, but the one that.
I didn't make it because I had to come down here.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm very curious.
So we have like the stage where we have the slots. Because I'm on the other side.
Good not to walk away.
Oh, yes.
It started to make it, yeah, as soon as I started, everyone's so loud.
Whatever you think about me,
Midway.
because our engineer tried to put all the things that he wanted to do as well.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you know, we don't have the money. They said, well, this can't be. I got it now, original.
Yeah.
But that is the agreement, and then as we receive those other fundings that were, ones that were promised to us, we added and updated that agreement, but he was. So.
In that project, she better, I don't get to get rid of this. Oh, with Trump.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could cut their teeth and not keep coming up. And it's working in small projects.
Engineer.
Yeah.
These brothers are engineers.
Really? Yeah, just something like.
We actually had come up and took a look at a project for us, not too long ago, I think it's worth that. Yeah. I think there's, lunch fixings are all ready to go if you guys wanna help yourselves. There's bread, meat, cheese, lettuce, like a salad mix, mustard, mayo.
Dry beverages before the tariffs.
And we actually, some of that, yeah, so it's being encouraged. Yes, no problem. So.
Well, under that NRCS project, right, one of the criteria for being a sponsor that we set is you have any tax.
Yeah.
Do you have eminent community? Yeah, so that's why.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was maybe with you. But,
I'm getting the red, so I'm bubbly.
We don't do it.
Where's,
We have
yeah,
it
we're working with
exists,
Mandio too,
right?
but that's the thing, like, if you are a partner in that whole project, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but, so we're doing it, but it
Not real
would.
crazy whole process.
Yeah, not real crazy process though, because and that piece there, I mean, if.
Well, you would have been.
I think there's nothing in there that says, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the.
Important stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put. How interesting would that be?
Yeah.
You know, like, bread, huh? And then that we can advance that. But then, you know what I mean? We've been going through, but now. But like you said, my husband.
Yes.
Okay, so when you said that they put it in and they are making that a priority as far as like the next 30.
No,
Because there's
problems. I think
they can
Rachel
go.
wants to get going too, but
Isn't that like programmed in their DNA of like the way? Like,
I think Chris just said it, maybe at some time.
So even if there's a way around that they've always gone a certain way, they will incline.
But that's species specific.
Yeah.
So some are hardwired, it's not like Pacific Northwest standard, it's
Okay.
like, boom, that's
Yeah.
the same, like, this is my route.
Yeah.
I wanna go there, spawn and down.
15-hour days,
Right?
you know.
Each a weekend spawn.
Yeah, we're
Also,
come
like,
home,
River
the
Haven,
kids to bed, and then I go back.
and they have opportunities to be a little.
So, okay.
They will.
8 o'clock comes and I'm like.
Not all smashes are like that. Not all the smashes are like that. But here's the other thing, please. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and if they're up on, they could, I think. You went in here also in the evening, that's the evening, once.
So you're.
So they were even in and around these events. But
So you're gonna have to ask some years.
right, and now all of a sudden,
For a
they can't
test.
even reclaim. But it's still.
So they'll find
It's
it.
like they could, it's again, it's not ideal, I'm not advocating, I don't wanna be a proponent to them at all. Just saying,
Like,
that's a
you'll know.
little different scenario than is my. Right? Right there.
Senior, November year, I
That's
think.
it. That's it, you know what I mean, that's a different kind of.
That's the headache.
Right.
From 6 down to 4. Because it takes like 3
So
days.
that's.
to get rid of this, and I feel like I spent all night.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, that was interesting. So Jill and Shannon, I watched that stuff because they basically, we had MITSC who were working on the boundary watershed and the back-to-back dam and potential removal. They gave money to MITSC to create a plan, an alternative. And in the meantime, while they gave them that money to work on that plan, they were in the background working with the chiefs and giving them money.
Meetings that are not, getting ready for meetings and doing actions.
Yeah.
That's. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one.
Something else.
Okay. No, I'm gonna go get you. Okay.
Ask for purposes. Depending on that, it's a pretty snake. to give notice and all that. And then, and I also don't believe that it's not, it doesn't, maybe in the past, that's when you try to build. It's really hard to be responsible. So,
I know, I would
like, I'm tracking 45 mils and only one night. So, and I'm on all these lists of different communities, thousands of bills. All these bills here, everybody see if it has to do well, I think
Who works at
Okay,
I do know
There's
yes.
a lot of.
Curly hair, yes.
Rachel is. Listening in.
Yeah, I guess
part of
that's
the
what
I'm not like her.
She is.
I do look at.
I've had some fun times with her.
No problem. Something.
Yep.
What's happening?
Difficulty in replacing the state commissioners. She was pretty much, she didn't come out and say non-rival support, like not so pro-rival. And
Yeah, I don't think that's.
trying to maintain neutrality.
Now dig it in, you
I
gotta dig in,
haven't
right?
figured out how to shut up. Got two pieces of it, just I mean, I can stop it and start it again, like, I know. Yeah, I mean, I'm always like, careful about stopping it, like, will it start it again?
You know, what I've been, it's the fruit bowls, you're going to grab and very.
I know.